The Ukrainian army has recently started relying on nature's conditions instead of mechanical missile launchers and million-dollar systems. Balloons. Now a missile falling on front lines can advance silently along its route, just like a modified Baba Yaga drone that doesn't make much noise, because Ukraine is entering the process of creating a revolution with balloons. Missiles attached to the balloon's gondola suspension platforms will begin targeting Russian forces' strategic military points on the Ukrainian battlefield. But this new balloon-carried missile system revolution looks like both a continuation of this series and much more interesting. The emergence of this system, introduced on June 16th, is as striking as the system itself. Throughout the war, Ukraine struck Russia's depth with drones, but Russia struck back. GPS jammers, signal scramblers, and electronic warfare systems shoot down or divert a portion of Ukrainian drones before they reach their targets. Ukraine's engineers searched for a radical solution to this problem, and the answer they found was unexpected: a missile launched from the Stratosphere that is completely immune to electronic warfare. This missile is the DART system, developed by the Innovative Technologies Center program. The concept is simple but effective. Stratospheric balloons carry the missile to an altitude air defense systems cannot reach and release it from there. The missile itself is surprisingly small, 1.84 meters long and only 13 kilograms in weight. The warhead varies between 3.5 and 10 kilograms and contains graphite-based strike elements. The graphite choice is strategic. When it hits electrical grids, it creates short circuits and disables infrastructure through soft destruction instead of physical demolition. Transformer centers and power lines face damage that takes weeks to repair. With these features, DART is emerging from the prototype stage. The system is currently going through the codification process by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, at the stage of being entered into official inventory. The developers aren't stopping. Ballistic missile and air-to-ground missile variants are being planned. DART is not a single weapon. It's the first member of a new weapons family. But to understand its true genius, you need to look at its operating principle. The system works like this. A stratospheric balloon carries the DART missile to high altitude. Balloons are cheap, and their radar cross-sections are so low that detecting them is difficult. When the missile is released from the balloon, it's initially guided by a navigation system and determines its route toward the target. The critical moment comes at approximately 6 kilometers altitude. At this point, the navigation system is completely shut off. The solid fuel motor ignites, and the missile proceeds on a predetermined fixed route toward the target in a ballistic-like trajectory. After the motor ignites, DART rapidly accelerates and dives toward the target at a vertical angle. Air defense systems' reaction time is limited to seconds. The cleverness of this design is understood through comparison. A normal Ukrainian drone flies with GPS signals. Russia's EW systems disrupt that signal, and the drone deviates from its route or falls. In DART, there is no signal to disrupt because navigation is already off in the terminal phase. You cannot disrupt a closed system. When Russian EW operators look at their screens, they find nothing to interfere with. The missile is in autonomous mode and needs no external signal. Special servo actuators ensure flight stability and enable precise targeting regardless of launch conditions. The result is triple invisibility. The balloon evades radar because it's small and at high altitude. The missile is hard to detect on radar because its cross-section is extremely low. And it's electronically invisible because it emits no signal. Hard to detect, hard to track, impossible to disrupt. DART breaks 3 links of Russia's defense chain simultaneously. When 3 links are broken, Russia's defense equation collapses, and this collapse is as much economic as military. Cost asymmetry is DART's most devastating feature. A single DART system, including the balloon, costs approximately $6,000. An S-400 interceptor missile to stop it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. The ratio is hundreds to 1, and this ratio favors Ukraine. If Ukraine launches 10 darts and Russia tries to stop all of them, it spends millions of dollars. If Ukraine launches 100 darts, Russia's interception stocks run out. And every dart Russia cannot stop can hit energy infrastructure. The graphite warhead creates short circuits at transformer centers, database power lines, and repair takes weeks. Ukraine is already using this tactic through conventional means. DART is expected to deliver the same effect much more cheaply and much more safely. And DART doesn't have to fight alone. Ukraine's existing strike doctrine is based on the layered attack principle. First, balloons and decoy drones can keep air defense busy and exhaust expensive missiles. Then darts can infiltrate through radar's weak points and strike energy infrastructure. And then, conventional drones and missiles can deliver the real blow against weakened defenses. Every layer opens the way for the next. In this coordinated attack, Russia needs to respond to each threat separately, and every response consumes resources. Production scale is also Ukraine's advantage. DART's design is suitable for mass production. Simple structure, cheap materials, standard components. Balloons are produced for hundreds of dollars and are single-use. Ukraine's defense industry proved throughout the war that it can raise drone production to industrial levels. The same production capacity could apply to DART. Russia, on the other hand, must spend years and billions of dollars on high-altitude radars and anti-balloon systems to counter each DART. Attack is cheap and fast. Defense is expensive and slow. This equation is working against Russia. Moreover, this equation didn't begin with DART. Ukraine has been building this ecosystem for 2 years, and DART is the latest link. From early 2025, Ukraine released thousands of stratospheric balloons deep into Russia. Some reached ranges of 4,000 kilometers, going as far as the Urals. In the first phase, balloons were used as decoys, to occupy Russia's air defense radars and exhaust expensive interceptor missiles on false targets. Russia struggled to respond to these balloons. Scrambling fighter jets to shoot down balloons is operationally meaningless and absurdly expensive, but ignoring them opens the door to missile attacks. Balloons pulled Russia's air defense planners into an unsolvable dilemma. Then the balloons' missions expanded. Reconnaissance and communications relay functions were added. Balloons turned into airborne data relay stations for drone operations. Then, they became weapons platforms. With the Hornet system, balloons began carrying drones 42 kilometers and dropping them from 8 kilometers altitude. This means the drone uses its own battery not for flight, but only for the attack, and its range multiplies. Aerobavovna Company transitioned tethered balloon systems to mass production and received NATO codification, meaning they became a standard product exportable to allied countries. And at the Eurosatory 2026 Defense Fair, OM Defense Systems introduced Spectre, an EW-resistant decoy drone that generates a powerful and adjustable radar signal to overload air defense networks, drawing responses as if it were a real fighter jet, but at very low cost. DART is the rocket version of this ecosystem, the same cheap balloon platform, but with a missile instead of a drone on top. The evolution line is clear. From decoy to reconnaissance, from reconnaissance to drone, from drone to missile. Every new system expanded the gap opened by its predecessor and placed a new burden on Russia's defense network. Ukraine created a weapons family from the Stratosphere, and this family continues to grow. But this idea is actually 230 years old. The first military balloon flew in 1794 during the French Revolutionary Wars. At the Battle of Fleurus, an observation balloon mapped enemy positions. This was military history's first aerial intelligence operation. In the American Civil War, balloons directed artillery fire. In World War I, barrier balloons blocked enemy aircraft. In World War II, Japan reached the US mainland with Fugo balloon bombs, recorded in history as the first intercontinental weapons system. During the Cold War, the US flew spy balloons over the Soviets with Project Genetrix. In every era, balloons found a role, but every time new technologies sent them to the museum. Aircraft took over reconnaissance, satellites took over intelligence, missiles took over attack. Ukraine reversed this cycle and adapted old technology to the 21st century's electronic warfare environment. And the world is watching, because great powers are also exploring the same space. The U.S. Defense Innovation Unit awarded Raven Aerostar contracts for stratospheric balloon systems. Platforms called Thunderhead reach 30,000 meters altitude and perform long-duration surveillance, signals intelligence, and communications relay missions. In August 2025, a high-altitude balloon was tested at the Arctic Edge exercise in Alaska and used for maritime target detection at the Thundercloud exercise in Norway. Even Australia launched its own high-altitude balloon trials. The US is developing this technology not yet as a weapons platform, but as an intelligence and early warning tool. But Ukraine's DART success could change this approach. China is far more ambitious. Chinese military experts define near space as a new competition domain among military powers, and have been investing in stratospheric airships, solar-powered drones, and high-altitude balloons for over a decade. The 2023 spy balloon crisis was this program's first global test. A balloon carrying SIGINT-capable antennas entered U.S. airspace at 18 to 20 kilometers altitude, passed over sensitive military facilities, and was shot down by an F-22 fighter jet. According to U.S. intelligence, China has flown similar balloons over more than 40 countries. Russia also doesn't want to fall behind in this field. The Barrage 1 stratospheric platform, developed in partnership between Aerodromash and Bauman University, made its first flight in February 2026. It can carry 100 kilograms of payload to 20 kilometers altitude and changes altitude using wind currents with a pneumatic ballast system. The platform was accelerated after Starlink access restrictions. It was designed as a communications alternative in occupied Ukrainian territories. Ukrainian military communications expert Bezkresnov, Flash, lists potential military applications: reconnaissance, signal relay, fire correction. But Barrage 1 has a structural problem: wind. Prevailing air currents over Ukraine flow from west to east, and a balloon launched from Russian territory is dragged not toward Ukraine, but into Russia's depth. Russia is developing the technology, but the atmosphere isn't cooperating with it. And none of them did what Ukraine did, converting balloon technology into an armed version in active combat. Ukraine's DART is this field's first real weapons system, and great powers are taking notes. DART signals a paradigm shift. Instead of expensive conventional weapons, you can challenge great powers' defense systems with cheap platforms and smart munitions combinations. NATO countries will increase interest in low-cost, high-impact systems and reassess existing air defense doctrines. Ukraine is leading the innovation race on the battlefield once again, this time with a 230-year-old idea. DART and the balloon ecosystem could change the equation not just on the battlefield, but also in the global arms market, because weapons proven in battle sell. Ukraine realized this fact and acted. Zelensky lifted the weapons export ban in effect since the start of the war in April 2026 and launched a controlled export program. The targets are ambitious. 10 weapons export centers will be opened in Europe by the end of 2026, and the first offices were established in Berlin and Copenhagen. Ukrainian drone production is starting in Germany. More than 450 drone manufacturers are active in the country, and 50% of production capacity is used. Exports will absorb this surplus. In the Pentagon's $1 billion drone dominance program, 2 Ukrainian companies shared first place. The US military is buying Ukrainian drones. Behind this picture is the battle-proven premium, and this premium is the arms trade's most powerful sales argument. Israel has been using this model for decades. Iron Dome, Trophy, and Spike systems were sold at premium prices on the world market after being tested on the battlefield. Turkey opened the same path with Bayraktar TB2. Successes in Syria, Libya, and Karabakh turned Turkey into a drone exporter. Ukraine is now the newest and most dynamic member of this club. If DART successfully enters the field and delivers results, it becomes the world's first and only in the EW-resistant stratospheric missile category. And this kind of monopoly position is attractive to buyer countries. Battle-proven cheap weapons see high demand on the world market. Ukraine is becoming a country that knows and uses this. But this idea also has limits, and ignoring them would be an incomplete analysis. DART is still at the codification stage and has not been tested in real combat conditions. The transition from prototype to field is always harder than expected, and operational reliability has not been proven. Ukraine has launched more than 1,000 balloons since fall 2025, but how many reached their targets has not been shared publicly. The success rate is unknown. A balloon can be launched in 15 minutes, but stratospheric winds are an unpredictable variable. They blow in different directions at different altitudes, and controlling exactly where the balloon drifts is limited. Even DARPA has been working for years on solving this problem with its ALTA program and still hasn't reached a complete solution. Precision targeting is incomparable with conventional missile systems, and a 13-kilogram missile's damage capacity is limited. A single dart cannot destroy a strategic facility. It falls short against bunkers, protected shelters, and hardened command centers. DART is strong as an infrastructure weapon, but not a general-purpose strike platform. Russia isn't sitting idle either. The Fakel Design Bureau, manufacturer of S-300 and Tor systems, developed a specialized anti-drone missile for small unmanned aerial vehicles. The AI-guided interceptor drone called Yolka costs $500 and operates on a fire-and-forget principle, autonomously tracking and neutralizing enemy drones. The Pervy Dirigible company developed a balloon net defense system called Barrier, hanging nets from balloons to catch drones, the modern version of World War II's barrier balloons. And Russia has started adding EW to its own drones. Shahed 238 was equipped with a jet engine. Decoy drones were activated, and flight altitudes are constantly being changed. Russia adapts quickly, and DART's advantage may not be permanent. But these limitations don't eliminate DART's strategic value, because its purpose is not standalone destruction anyway. DART's mission is to exhaust the system. Every balloon occupies air defense radars, every missile expends expensive interception munitions, and every attack forces Russia to allocate resources to new countermeasures. Fakel's missile, Yolka, Barrier, all require resources, and each is proof of the pressure DART creates. And the wind problem may not be as big an obstacle as thought, because prevailing currents over Ukraine flow from west to east. This direction is exactly Ukraine's attack bearing, toward Russia. Wind is a disadvantage for Russia, but an advantage for Ukraine. Every countermeasure Russia allocates resources to creates an opening on another front. Ukraine's strategy is not to build a single superweapon, but to create a network of edge systems working in coordination. Drones, naval drones, balloons, missiles. DART is this network's new node, and as the network expands, Russia's defense cost multiplies exponentially. It doesn't have to be a perfect weapon. Being effective as part of the system is enough. We will continue to follow these developments. Subscribe to the Geo Network. Thank you for watching. One final reminder, if you're thinking, I want the analyses to continue even when I step away from the screen, we also await you on Spotify to shorten your long drives and turn traffic into an enjoyable listening experience.